to our Road to Net Zero event today. My name is Anna Christie. I'm the Chief Executive at the Sussex Chamber. We would like to welcome you all. We do have a packed agenda today. So following our speakers, there will be an opportunity to ask questions, engage, share ideas, best practice to support each other and to support each other's business as we all adapt on this journey to net zero. Please do share your updates on social media as well and tag us in at Sussex Chamber. So the net zero is a key policy priority for the Chamber of Commerce network. Also, with we've been working with the global chambers worldwide. It's imperative that businesses take steps to manage their carbon emissions now, and the Chamber network will play a crucial role in supporting members to achieve this. So we will be rolling out more information in August, and I sit on the policy group at the moment, which will deal with the policy issues. There will also be updates in terms of funding and support that businesses will be able to receive in terms of how they can adapt for their green sustainability agenda. And we have combined these efforts with all of the global chambers. So we're 53 chambers in the UK and over 70 chambers globally. And we are going to be putting together a toolkit of information, advice, but it will also be localized. So it will be lots of information locally in terms of what businesses can do. So that we hope to launch in August, in the next few weeks. So this year, COP26 is the climate conference, which is being held in Glasgow in November. And in the run-up to the event, the Chamber Network also has plans to amplify the net zero message to help local businesses and local communities take the steps and measures they need to create a greener future. We will also be holding a conference in November. It won't be possible for all of us to travel to Glasgow, so we will be holding our conference on the 2nd of November, and there will be further details coming out on that. And it will be held at the Felbridge Hotel in East Grinstead, so quite central in Sussex. So we have three companies presenting today in terms of their journey to net zero and becoming greener and more sustainable. The first company is the Adelphi Group of companies. So the Adelphi Group is a family-owned business based in Haywards Heath, West Sussex. It comprises of Adelphi Manufacturing, Adelphi Masterfill, Pharma Hygiene Products, and Adelphi Healthcare Packaging. Our speaker today from Adelphi is Rachel Morgan, who's the marketing executive. So Rachel joined the Adelphi Group of companies at the climax of their sustainable manufacturing drive and has since led the group to victory in 3 consecutive Environmental Initiative Awards. So the Adelphi Group are the reigning manufacturing family Business of the Year champions after submitting an entry outlining their clean growth credentials. Rachel is now passionate about paying forward the tips and tricks of the Adelphi Group to help other businesses along the road to net zero. So please welcome Rachel.
Morning, everybody.
Hi, Rachel. You okay?
Yes, thank you. And you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Do you have a camera at all?
I do. Let me switch it on for you all.
Okay, that's brilliant.
Okay.
Yes, hello. Yeah, hello there. Okay, so I have the screen is ready to for you to be able to share your screen if you want to go through your presentation, or equally, I can share that with you and you can just prompt me to go to the next slide.
Yeah, could you go ahead and share your screen?
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you very much.
Okay, can you see that?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent.
Okay, so hi everyone. As Anna kindly introduced, I've been invited to speak to you about the company I work for, the Adelphi Group, to share some of our successful environmental initiatives from the past few years, and hopefully to sort of pay this forward and to give you all some new ideas about how to make your own facilities more sustainable. A major challenge being faced by businesses around the world is how to do this in a commercially viable way. So for each of the initiatives I'll talk about, I'll be discussing the financial and environmental benefits for your business to help you assess whether investing in similar initiatives is commercially viable for you at this time. I do believe that sharing the successes that we've had is essential to help us all meet the collective target of net zero. So any of the initiatives that I'm talking about today, smaller and larger companies can implement these on a smaller or larger scale. Would you mind switching to the next slide, please? Thank you. So a quick intro just to build upon what Anna said, for those who don't already know about us. The Adelphi Group of Companies was founded in 1947, and we've been based in Haywards Heath, West Sussex since 1984. We manufacture filling and capping machinery, largely for the pharmaceutical, food, cosmetics and chemical industries. We've got a double award-winning environmentally friendly site, which was completed in 2018. You've got a little image there on the right. And you'll just see that I've left my email address at the bottom of each slide. Please write it down. So if you would like to know more about any of the initiatives that I'll talk about, or if you'd like to even arrange a visit to our site to see them for yourself, you can reach out and get in touch with me. Would you mind switching to the next slide, please? Thank you. So the first initiative that I'm going to speak about is rainwater harvesting. So we invested in rainwater harvesting in 2017, and we've got 2 underground tanks which supply the whole of our site with water for plumbing and cleaning. It doesn't reduce any of the profitable space on our site. You can see from the image on the right, the control box is extremely discreet. That's just in a little downstairs room. It now saves us an average of approximately 12,000 litres per month from these 2 tanks, which obviously translates into a significant financial saving as well. So from the installation fee, that pays itself back, or it certainly paid itself back for ourselves pretty promptly. So you can then move on. Once you've got the financial saving, you've got the confidence of that rolling in. The secondary benefit is ecological. It's reduced our use and dependence on mains water, which means that less water on our conscience, as it were, will need to be artificially drawn from the environment. I would note on this initiative that only properties fitted with a water meter will benefit financially from rainwater collection systems. So those who don't have a meter, this one's not for you, I'm afraid. So we've got drainage systems which throughout the whole building, they run off waste rainwater into these tanks underground, and they're not drinking, but they do supply all our water for cleaning, plumbing, that kind of thing. Okay, would you mind switching to the next slide? Thank you. So a pretty well-known option, which has had varying popularity in the last few years, I would say is fair to comment, is solar panels. Obviously, well known that powering your business with solar panels is better for the environment than using fossil fuels, and it reduces your reliance on the grid. So self-sufficiency being the name of the game here. By also installing battery storage technology, you can use the energy you generate when it best suits you. This means you're importing less electricity from the grid. This saves you money on your energy bills and allows you to have power regardless of grid interruptions or outages. As you can see from the screen, that's the number of solar panels that we installed at the time that our site was being regenerated with the environment in mind. They're generating excess electricity at a rate of 3% per month, and that's a significant financial saving for us as well. So the environmental benefits, obviously the least negative impact on the environment with no greenhouse gases produced. So that's a huge deal if it's viable for yourselves. There are several options out there for businesses, including solar panel grants, other funding options as well, which you can investigate, a simple Google search after this session to work out how viable this is for you. But this is the benefit that it's had for the Adelphi Group of Companies, environmentally, but also financially. Would you mind switching to the next slide, please? Thank you. We also installed an air source heat pump, which is a lesser known entity compared to the solar panels. The way it works is that it transfers heat absorbed from the outside air into your indoor space. So this is saving you money on your energy bills and reducing your carbon footprint when you compare this to a gas or electric heating system. So in order to achieve net zero by 2050, the UK government is aiming to install 19 million air source heat pumps in new build homes. This has resulted in significant development to the air source heat pump technology. So this renewable energy source is now even cheaper to run than it's ever been. So obviously you're reducing your carbon emissions, great for your progression towards net zero, but this is producing more heat energy than it uses in electricity at the Adelphi site. Would you mind switching to the next slide, please? Thank you. So as well as our facilities, there are some other options that I wanted to share with you guys today. So we're actually in our products which are appropriate to do so, so the smaller scale benchtop equipment, we've been investigating for several years now different packaging options. And again, this is an area where the technology and the research has only increased and will only continue to increase as the demand grows. So from packaging peanuts to bespoke cup packaging, your options now are absolutely huge. There's no excuse in many ways to be going for plastics, single-use disposables. The example that I'm showing you here, we use a sustainably sourced foam. It's made from polyethylene resin, and this is derived from a renewable sugarcane-based feedstock. There's no element of that which cannot be biodegraded. So obviously less ending up in landfill there. Obviously the cost of this to your business depends on product type, but packaging can be quite a significant outlay for retail customers anyway. So it's better, I would argue, to do this with a heart and turn this into a unique selling point for your business. Every so often we go into companies, I think there's an example later on one of the later slides, which we're delighted to have these shared values with our customers. We have the same renewable packaging peanuts as such and such a prospective customer, and it tipped them over into wanting to complete a deal with us when you can share those values and proactively demonstrate your commitment. Would you mind transferring to the next slide, please? Thank you. It's always good to give some zero investment options as well for improving your carbon footprint, improving your sustainability credentials for your business. So we've started participating in the Terracycle Scheme perhaps a year and a half ago now. It's absolutely free to sign up to. So if you haven't already done so, I would seriously recommend it. They operate under the tagline, recycling the non-recyclable, to divert millions of pounds of waste from landfills and incinerators every month. So just some examples at Adelphi, this includes coffee capsules, pens, plastic gloves, and many more. The recyclable items that you collect are awarded points, which are then converted into money for charity. So in Sussex, the scheme that we're part of transfers this money to the Oscar's Wish Foundation, which offers bereavement support for families following the loss of a baby, which we can all agree is a very worthy cause. Sorry, would you mind switching to the next slide? Thank you. So the sustainability initiatives to make your site work harder and smarter for yourselves. You can see how the investment is outweighed in many cases quite quickly by the financial benefits and certainly by the environmental benefits. This is also evident in the work that we've done using sustainability as a PR tool to even greater offset the investment cost. So there's often a negative perception of the manufacturing industry, which we're based in terms of its environmental impact. So sustainability initiatives can really make your business stand out, but I think that's true across the board, not necessarily just in manufacturing. Sustainability credentials are really a primary decision-making factor for customers in a way that's taken off over the last few years. Your approach to sustainability, I'd say, can either win or lose you business. So you really want to make sure that you're winning business. Examples of positive PR that we've benefited from include these are sustainability awards that Anna mentioned. They're free to enter. They generate loads of positive publicity, brand awareness for your business. People want to be associated with you. That's making you money. Linking with sustainability bloggers, which generates backlinks to your website and improves your discoverability in Google. People are going to find you more easily when you're linking with these type of bloggers. And an improved public perception of your business overall. So the highest content engagement we see on our social media channels is with our sustainability posts, which are liked and reshared across the board and really increase exposure for our business. Customers are interested in sustainability. They want to know what companies are doing about it. And they want to be associated with companies that are really making a positive statement about it. Would you mind switching to the last slide, please? Thank you. So I really do believe that every initiative will count to help the UK meet its target of climate neutrality by 2050. All businesses, small or large, are called upon to reduce pollution and waste, recycle and reuse materials, and moderate emissions in the process of it. To stress again, you're so welcome to come to our site or to ask me any further questions if you'd like to find out more about any of these initiatives. Obviously, there's only time to run through them all briefly, but hopefully it's given a snapshot of the environmental and the financial benefits so that you can grow your business in a clean way. I appreciate your attention. This is the first time I've done a presentation like this, so I hope that it was engaging and enjoyable. I hope it's also given some food for thought about how to get more from your facilities as we work towards net zero together. Listening.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Rachel. You wouldn't have guessed you haven't given a presentation before.
That was terrifying.
Lots of amazing tips and ideas that businesses can really consider. And before we go on to the next speaker, I think it's a great opportunity to pause here and see if anybody from the audience has any questions. So please do press on the participants link and then raise your hand, or just unmute yourself and turn your camera on to ask Rachel some questions.
Absolutely.
What you were saying about the sustainability credibility, I couldn't agree more. There's more and more businesses globally as well that are looking at those credentials to see who they partner up with to ensure that they are on that journey to being greener and more sustainable. Have you encountered that with overseas companies?
Absolutely. It's certainly not limited to the UK. It's now something we're being proactively asked about by customers. It's not simply, obviously, I think most companies now have a sustainability section on their website, so you can inform customers about what you're doing, but it's now actively questions being asked. How do you do this? How do you address this? Because there's everyone's got so many competitors now. There's, in even something as niche as filling machinery, actually there are a lot of companies in the UK offering this service, and if you can show that you're proactively contributing to a more sustainable future, people, that sets you apart now. It really does. It really is a business winner.
I couldn't agree more, and I know my colleague Teju from Department for International Trade is online here today.
Oh, there, Teju.
And I know that she has mentioned the companies that she's liaising with, and that is now really becoming more of a requirement in terms of really setting your business apart, making sure that you can show that you are adapting, you are changing, you're reducing your carbon footprint, you are recycling and becoming greener. So yes, I think it's absolutely fantastic. I know that you mentioned about the solar panels, and there are grants, because it can be a very costly investment, but it is something that you do eventually see that return on, don't you? In terms
Absolutely.
of that, yeah.
As with anyone, I think that was the main point to try and get across, is that sometimes people are put off by the idea of outlaying loads of money in the initial instance to become more sustainable, but you do reap the rewards very quickly indeed. And that's certainly something that we saw. I think it's translatable scale-wise as well, the scale of the investment that you're comfortable with or that's viable for you. Nobody's suggesting that anyone bankrupts themselves in the effort to become more sustainable. We want everyone's businesses to grow, but to grow in an environmentally conscious way. So if you have a smaller site, perhaps sticking 10 up on the roof and becoming that tiny bit more self-sufficient and reducing the demand on the public electricity, it's a great starting point.
Definitely. And
every little helps, as it were.
Exactly. And that's going to be my next point. Every little does help. And even if you're a small business and you think, well, I'm not a large manufacturing company, what can I do? The scheme that you said about that you can sign up for free and then you can convert those points for charity in terms of the recycling, whether it's stationery or whether it's, you know, pens or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic way of slowly companies doing their part.
Absolutely. And we also ended up, not necessarily consciously even, but as the new eco-friendly facility was being built, it translated over into just an everyday awareness amongst our staff, actually. You know, we've bought all of our colleagues, you know, reusable water bottles, for example, so that they're not stopping off at Tesco's in the morning or wherever it might be and bringing a little plastic, you know, single use that they then chuck away. So it's real, you know, grassroots level, right up to any larger investments that might be viable.
I saw somebody raise their hand. Rich,
I think it was Rich, yes.
Yeah, did you have a question for Rachel?
Hi, Rich.
Hi there. I did and I didn't, because I noticed that it then was answered in the chat anyway. I was going to ask about if you used any funding to pay for the stuff that you had added to your company, so like the solar cells and your heater, or was it, and then someone mentioned the low case funding system, which we've been looking into as well. But I don't know if there's anything else that you'd heard of or came across that helped you get these things in place in the first place.
Off the top of my head, I wouldn't like to guess the name of the company, but I can certainly send it over to you if you'd like. That would be no problem at all. I do think there was some funding used at the Adelphi Group of companies. As I say, I sort of arrived at the tail end of when it was all getting exciting. So I guess the funding must have been agreed prior to that, but I can certainly ask for you and shoot you over some information.
Yeah, cool. Because what I've seen so far from looking around on the government websites is there's like a loan system, but very few grant systems. And obviously, a lot of companies are probably going to be edging away from getting a loan in place.
For sure,
because it's
yeah.
just more expenditure, especially in the current climate. So I don't know, if, Anna, have you got any information on any other funding things that are in place that perhaps companies can use and look into to get more value out of it?
So there is the low case, which was mentioned in the chat. So that's through the University of Brighton. That's grants there. There's Innovate UK. There is some funding there through Innovate UK. And so low case will also be launching in West Sussex, because it was just East Sussex, but they are launching in West Sussex later on this year. And I believe Innovate UK, I have got a couple of colleagues at Innovate UK. I'll just find out more information from them. And then when we circulate the presentation and the slides and everything, I'll make sure that we've included all of the links as well for any funding and support. But one of the things we will be doing as we launch our green sustainability web pages as well on our website, there will be further links and advice and information to help businesses.
Okay, great. Thank you indeed.
You're welcome.
I've just spotted a question in the chat from Sarah.
Yes.
I don't know if this was specifically directed at me, Sarah, but I'll answer it in the first instance, and then if it was open to everybody, then everyone can have a turn.
No, it was you, Rachel.
Okay, lovely. In terms of a strategy, it was never formalised on paper, and we simply have a chairman with a big heart and a personal interest in sustainability. He's been pushing for this kind of thing and researching the latest technologies. I mean, he's been in the company since, what is it, the 70s, something like that. So I actually found the other day some examples of 1980s biodegradable plastic bags. So Adelphi were looking into these things even then. I think it's just escalated, to be honest. Every time we need a new every time we purchase a new item, so perhaps if we're renewing our contract with whoever produces our packaging, it's can we do this in a more sustainable way. When we realized we needed an air conditioning unit for our production facility, okay, what are the sustainable options for this? What's the most sustainable form of air conditioning that we can possibly invest in? How's that for price? Is there a compromise to be had between what we can realistically afford and the commitment that we really want to make? So it's actually never been formalized as a strategy. It's just part of the ethos of the business now, really. Everyone's just constantly on the lookout.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Rachel. I'm sure there'll be more questions at the end. So I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who is Yasmin, and please forgive me if I get the name of the company wrong. Is it Qua Products, Yasmin?
Yes, that's correct. Hiya.
Hello. So just to give everybody an overview of Quar products, they provide Quar-based products for the horticulture and erosion control sectors. So it's a waste product of the coconut industry, and Quar-based products are completely natural and biodegradable. So Yasmin has worked in the legal industry, and she brings her knowledge and experience in the areas of policy and management, and she oversees the company's administration and operational functions. So please welcome Yasmin.
Hiya. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Do you have a camera at all, Yasmin?
Yeah, I'll just get that on now.
Excellent.
Don't know if the lighting, is it that all right?
That's perfect. Yeah, that's fine. Are you okay sharing your slides, or do you want me to do that for you?
Yeah, if it's all right, are you okay to share your slides?
Of course, yeah.
Thank you. So,
okay. Can you see that?
yes, I can see that. That's perfect. I hope everybody else is all right as well. So hi everyone. My name's Yasmin. As introduced, I'm the managing assistant at Koya Products, and I'm really happy and excited, a bit anxious. This is my first Zoom meeting presentation. So hello. And yeah, really happy to be sharing our experiences and what we're doing to be more sustainable with our approaches, especially in the industry that we work in. So could we go to the next slide, please? And I'll just give you a bit of information about our story. So our online shop was launched actually this year. So we were, 2020, we were launched last year. And we provide a diverse array of biodegradable coir-based products for the horticulture section and erosion control section. So we do kind of two different areas. And we have a range of products for gardeners, growers, landscapers, and also for soil and erosion control. I think there's some images of our products, I think possibly on the next slide. Yeah. So a bit about us and our story. So we were first UK-based company to offer such a wide range of products under one platform, especially in the retail sector. And in many instances, you find companies offering some of these products that we offer, but mainly in bulk. So the everyday gardener can't necessarily or wasn't able to order products at a smaller quantity. So although we established our shop last year, the founders of the company have been in the industry for 15 years, offering the bulk supply of goods to the trade sector, B2B. And Koya Products was born out of the need to provide people with and consumers with products at a more smaller quantity and more affordable prices. So you can order however many products you want on our online shop, either in bulk, or you can order them in smaller quantities. So if you needed 10 pots or 5 pots or 20 coins, then you can order them as opposed to ordering thousands at a time. So what Koya is, so it's a sustainable waste product which is extracted from the husk of the coconut, and I think you can see the coconut husk at the bottom of the screen here, and that's the coconut tree. And when the fibre is extracted from the coconut husk, the resulting short fibres and the dust is discarded, and it's the dust that is then used to make a variety of the Koya products. For instance, it's the dust that is compressed into bales to make cocoa, which is a great alternative or great growing medium as opposed to peat-based compost, which as I think majority of people might not know, has obviously quite a lot of chemicals in it. So our product is very natural. There isn't any kind of chemicals added to it, so it's literally it's just the compressed dust from the cocoa peat. And the term peat in cocoa is commonly kind of used to refer to the dust that we use. So it's quite a sustainable product in itself, because that there's no waste with the in the coconut industry, so it's kind of all used. So that's a bit about what Koya is. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So Koya-based products, there's a couple of examples on the screen, so you can see them all here. So you've got the pots, the cocoa peat, so you've got some of the coins that we do. And this is all 100% natural, biodegradable, and therefore has kind of minimum harm on the environment. All of our products are ethically sourced, and we ensure that practices are followed in producing these products. So our ground team back in the factory in Sri Lanka monitors all the aspects of the manufacturing process, and making sure that the products from the production to here are all ensured, ethically sourced. No chemicals at all are used within the process as well. So we also ensure that the factories produce the goods following the proper protocols, and our partners are ISO certified as well. So it's really ethically sourced. We kind of support a lot of the industries over there as well. And if we could go to the next slide. So I'll just go through some of our actions towards our approaches to be a bit more sustainable in obviously everything else that we do. So as I said, this is a waste product. So we've been trying to look at ways in which we can make our entire operation more sustainable. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So our actions towards making our approach more sustainable, we have been attempting to try and remove all unnecessary plastic packaging from our products that sometimes help to hold the Koya dust together. Our goal is to be completely plastic free in our packaging, but because of the nature of the product, we're looking into kind of different approaches. So we've removed the plastic from a lot of our coins. So as you can see here, we've got some of our bags which we use packaging for, and using a bit more cardboard to make sure that it's recyclable, so that we can use that. But yeah, as I said, our goal is to be completely plastic free from packaging. We used to use bubble wrap, sometimes plastics to secure the products, but this has been drastically reduced. So we are now looking to move and piloting towards using more fair trade organic cotton bags instead of the plastic products. We're working on this gradually, and we hope to have all of our products completely plastic free by the end of this year. Hopefully, piloting a few things. So we're increasing the size of our boxes just to make sure that we can actually package things appropriately, not using any unnecessary boxes, and reducing the unnecessary transport of sending goods. So instead of sending 4 different boxes with smaller quantities in, we're sending larger boxes so we can fit more stuff in, again to reduce our carbon footprint there. Yeah, hopefully by the end of this year we will be plastic free in all of our packaging. So I don't know, as opposed to other kind of products like this, there's quite a lot of plastic pots that kind of are around. So we've got the our pots, which are made from Koya and the fibers, and they're compressed. So we've managed to remove all of the plastic from them, and they're packaged in these bags along with our Koya coins. And we're now kind of just moving towards getting our actual cocoa peat, as opposed to our cocoa peat into kind of non-plastic packaging. And if we could move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. So so the next one that we are trying to do to make our approach more sustainable is to avoid the use of unnecessary chemicals. So one of the main concerns that people have with using Koya is the the manufacturing of coir leads to water pollution or any other environmental pollutions, and this is to do with the release of chemicals. So we are avoiding the use of chemicals in our products, so it is completely natural. So there's no harmful chemicals feeding into the ground or feeding into the water or environment. So it is completely natural. So we're really kind of trying to get the message out there a bit more about cocoa peat and the benefits and the great uses of it, purely because at the moment, I know in 2024 there's going to be the peat ban for the average gardeners. So we're hoping to get the message out there a bit more about cocoa peat, so that more people start to use it, or more people can know the benefits of it, as opposed to harmful chemicals that are kind of being put into other compost, peat-based compost. So yeah, so that is our second action. If we could move on to slide number 3. Perfect, thank you. So with this, so our products are produced in Sri Lanka due to the availability of the raw materials. We import our products via sea freight by the container load in order to reduce our carbon footprint, as opposed to small amounts being shipped continuously. We would rather send a larger container full of like a 40-foot container, so we don't import via air freight, hopefully to reduce our carbon footprint even further. And then if we could move on to the next slide, please. Perfect. And so the other actions that we're doing towards making it more sustainability is, as I said, is we're promoting the use of coir as an alternative to move away from harmful peat-based growing, through knowledge of sharing, partnerships, contributing towards the UK's government efforts to end the use of peat in the horticulture sector. Our overall objective is to also share knowledge. As I said, the UK government announced that the sale of peat compost to gardeners will be banned from 2024, which we think is fantastic. So we will be so as part of the efforts in tackling climate change, extracting peat is harmful to the environment, but only 13% of peatlands are in the near and natural state, and due to damage and degradation, UK's peatlands are emitting 10 megatons of CO2 per year in England. So obviously, because the natural process of how we produce the coir, it comes straight from the coconut. There isn't any CO2. It's not kind of it's not emitting such harmful environmental damage. It's not doing such an environmental damage. So we're really promoting the use of coir to alternative peat-based growers. We're really trying to get the message out in the UK at the moment. So we are working with a few people with regards to producing the products for them, so that they can then share the message. And we are hopefully looking to partner with a few different charities, so that we can get the message out even further with them, just so that more people know the benefits of coir and more people know how harmful peat-based compost is to the environment, how much damage it is doing. So they're some of our actions. Coir has many benefits. So it's very water retainable, it retains a lot of water, so it's really good for your roots of your products, and it's biodegradable, so you can essentially reuse them over and over again. And then when you want to plant your pots or plant your products, then you can put them straight in the ground, and it doesn't leak any harmful chemicals. There's no plastic waste, so you're not continuously throwing plastic pots away. So it is very sustainable in how you can use it over and over again, and then once it's ready to biodegrade, you can pop it in the ground. So so we're committed to seeing what more we can do with regards to being more sustainable. But at the moment, these are some of the core things that we are working on, just to try and get the message out there and hopefully allow other gardeners to be more sustainable, in order to hopefully be completely peat free by 2024. So yeah, so thank you. And does anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much, Jasmine. That was absolutely fantastic. So that it really does go to show that there are alternatives to, you know, if you are doing just your general gardening, to plastic pots and peat as well. So there's a lot of work that I can see needs to be done with the horticultural industry,
Yeah,
as well as, you know, to really get that message across and change where they source their products from, so that they're going away from plastic products and also peat. It's great to hear the news about peat in the coming years, but there's still that huge challenge of plastic, isn't there, in terms of the plastic usage and everything. How are you trying to deal with that side of it?
So do you mean with everybody else, or do you mean with us?
Yeah.
So well, that's actually something that we've been talking to. So we've attended a few garden shows recently, and we've been talking to a lot of the planters that attend, the florists that are there, and they bring their products. And the main thing that they're having with at the moment is, because there is so many plastic pots readily available, people are just using them, and unfortunately it's getting a bit difficult for the gardeners to actually recycle especially the black plastic pots. So we're trying to see whether there's something that we can do there in order to potentially take away the plastic pots for them, so that they can then use our pots. But it's just a case of kind of working with them at the moment, just to see if there is anything that we can do there, because we know that is a big issue. And unfortunately a lot of companies, they do like to save, and if they can reuse the plastic pots, then they will do, but it doesn't stop more plastic pots being made. So so we have spoken to a few people at the garden shows, just to see whether there is something that we can do, something that we can work on with them, in order to kind of remove all of that excess plastic, so people aren't just using more and more plastic pots. So and our pots are fantastic, so hopefully we'll get the message out there and be able to change that soon.
And it's fantastic, and I saw a comment as well by Rachel. It's fantastic to see that you ship in bulk as well, and you do that by sea freight rather than air freight.
Yeah.
And by doing that in bulk, you're going to reduce the amount of journeys as well, and that reducing that carbon footprint. So I think that's fantastic. Is it only Sri Lanka at the moment that you import from?
I believe so, yeah. So we've got a factory over there, and we support the cottage industry, and we've got a great team over there. So we just ship from there at the moment. As far as I'm aware, I don't think we have anything from anywhere else, because that's our base. So
yeah. But I think also looking at the packaging, because you said you wanted to become plastic free, in terms of the packaging you use to contain all of the Acquire products and everything, there are opportunities to extend that to, you know, whether it's supermarkets in terms of recycle bags, or the horticulture industry, and them using those packaging bags as well for other items.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're hoping to get in contact with bigger garden centres, as well as smaller local shops. We're hoping to get in contact with some in Brighton, just to see whether it's worth them using the products as well. It's just kind of talking to them at the moment. So we are hoping to push that message on as well. It's just the last bit that we need to do with the cocoa peat. So unfortunately, because there's so much dust, and because of the nature of the product, how you use it, if you were to hydrate it or get it wet, or if if there's moisture in the air or something, it kind of starts to expand. So the cocoa peat is compressed. So the difficulty with what we're having is, when it gets transported, if it was to even get a small bit of moisture on it, it would start to expand, which wouldn't be good, because a lot of people don't like their products exploding out of the boxes. So so that's the one thing that we're struggling with at the moment, but we're hoping to move away from that. We have got a few alternative ideas, and I think once we can talk to other shops about getting the packaging sorted, then I think it would be really, really beneficial. So hopefully we're moving in that direction.
That's great. And I see you mentioned as well about being ISO certified, and we see that there's more and more companies looking at this. Are you able to elaborate a little bit more on that certification for businesses around the room?
I will need to double check on that, because I'm not 100% sure with regards to what the process is with that. But yeah, we are iOS certified. We're hoping we can't use the word organic because you have to have the certificates and everything for organic. But we're hoping that we will be able to move towards that by hopefully the end of the year. So we try not to say that it's organic product, but yeah, we are iOS certified. ISO certified, sorry.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to look into that if anybody else wants some more information, and I can email it across to anyone, just to elaborate a bit more on how we've done that and how we've gone about that.
That's brilliant. I know that the slides have got your contact details as well, so we will circulate that to everyone. But thank you so much for your presentation and update, Jasmine. That's brilliant.
Thank you. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to email me or get in contact. And
or we can ask questions at the end and open it up, so you will have heard from all of our speakers by then. So please start to prepare some questions that you may have. But thank you.
Thank you.
I'd now like to introduce our next speaker. So Nigel Hall is the Director of Premier Energy. Premier Energy have been established since 1995, and over the last 26 years, they have provided market-leading utility consultancy services. This includes net zero carbon solutions, site feasibility, cost planning, and utility design. So Nigel is the Director at Premier Energy with over 40 years experience in the utility industry. During his career, Nigel has gained significant expertise in operations, commercial activities, business planning, regulation, and electrical design. He led a number of prestigious projects, including the operation of the 2012 Olympic Games electricity infrastructure. So please welcome Nigel. Just need to unmute yourself, Nigel. Sorry.
Sorry. Is that better? Can
you hear me? Yes, we can.
I was wondering whether I should try and perhaps share my slides from this end, because I wanted to show.
There you go. It's working.
Yeah. Look at the technology.
You just have to just expand the screen and that's it.
Okie dokie. Is that better?
Excellent. Yeah.
So good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to spend some time sharing some of our insight into the world of net zero and what that means for us all. As Anna's already said, I've been in this industry for quite a long time, and I've never seen a single item affect the people that provide our gas, water, electricity, and communications infrastructures as low carbon and a low carbon future has. As Anna's already mentioned, we're a Sussex-based consultancy. Our office is in Billingshurst in West Sussex, and I've been around a fair amount of time, so I've given away my age there, but quite a lot of experience in the utility industry around a whole breadth of issues and challenges, and I've been with Premier now and one of the directors there for the last 5 or 6 years. Previous to that, I was in the electricity industry, so some of what I'm going to talk to you about today, I've lived and experienced the reality of some of the impacts these new technologies, for example, and new sources of heating and transport are having on the industry. I thought I'd start with a little bit of facts and figures and share how we're dealing with that in Premier Energy and how we might be able to help other businesses deal with that as well. So jumped in the car last night to return from the office, and the headline news was about the Met Office report that suggests that last year was one of the wettest, one of the windiest, and one of the warmest ever on record. And I think that was the first time that 1 year had featured in all 3 of those activities. So there's no doubt at all climate change is having an impact on us all. Just to put things into perspective, transport, and I'll talk a little bit more about transport in a moment, but transport contributes around 27%. I think the expert that was on the radio last night was suggesting it was about a third, but I've seen some data that says it's about 27% of all greenhouse gas emissions in the UK. So it's a clear area of focus for all of us, and each and every one of us needs to play our part in trying to mitigate that in some way. And the most obvious way, and the way that you're probably all familiar with, is around electric vehicles, and that is the future with the ban on petrol and diesel cars later on this decade. At the moment, data that we got access to suggests that across London and the South East, there's something in the order of 70,000 electric vehicles on the roads, and they are served by 20,000 individual electric charge points. So a fair amount of infrastructure there just to keep the vehicles, and a lot of those are sited in people's homes and on driveways, etc. Not everyone has that benefit. But the really stark metric there is that we think researchers suggested that by 2030, that number will have increased across the same region to about 4.1 million. So I think you'll agree, a significant increase. Now, from a business perspective, we at Premier employ just under 30 people. I had a count up yesterday, actually. We've got about 20 cars in the car park yesterday. If I'd have had this conversation with you this time last year, I'd have said that the population of electric vehicles at that time was 0. And I have to report that as of yesterday, the population of electric vehicles in our car park was 25% of the fleet. So that's a significant increase in just a 12-month period. So I think that some of the thinking behind this data and this significant growth is very real, and I don't think we should ignore it. In terms of looking at it from a more localized perspective, there's been lots of research done from network operators about how they're going to have a system, a network that can support all this sudden uptake of electric transport. And this is a snapshot of some data that's predicted to affect East Sussex, in 2030, around the regionality of the rollout of electric vehicles. And one of the drivers behind this, one of the things they take into account, is the demographics of the population. So you can see from that drawing that there are some areas where the population is much denser than it is in others. And that's mainly driven by the research into the demographics and the likelihood of take-up from drivers and that sort of thing. So quite an interesting perspective that it won't necessarily be an even spread across the place. And there's data like this for all sorts of areas of the country, but that's just one snapshot I managed to get hold of for the East Sussex area come 2030. Importantly for all of us, I think, is how are we going to charge these vehicles? And this is where it very, very soon becomes very real for all of us. And again, this is not quite 2030, this is a couple of years short, this is 2028, and how they think the population of electric vehicles will be charged. And as you can see, the vast majority of vehicle charging will be done at home, either off street or on street. Now, I do recognise that not everyone has the ability to charge on street at home. Not everyone's got the benefit of access immediately outside their home to a charging point. You certainly can't be running leads out of your bedroom window and across the footway just to charge your vehicle at night. So there are some constraints around that. But the area that we've taken a particular interest in is the at-work vehicle charging, which is going to contribute over 20% of the vehicle charging facility. So our view is that employers need to start thinking about this and the provision of this into their plans and part of their sustainability planning, and how they're going to facilitate their workforce having access to electric vehicles. And that's an area that we've started to focus on, and are starting to look at helping businesses locally and what that planning process and what that process for getting charging set up in your premises is. And believe you me, and we are actually in reality going through this ourselves as a business at this very moment in time. And we are in the process of getting the electrical connection upgraded to our premises in West Sussex, just so we can facilitate some charge points in the car park. And it's interesting, the debate earlier, Anna, and I'd like to pick up on this perhaps in questions, but just about the access to funding, because that appears to be a real constraint at the moment in getting access, because it can be quite prohibitive. I don't know what people's views around the audience are on that today and whether they've experienced that, but there can be some significant costs in getting this in, and at the moment when cash is king for most businesses, given the pandemic and the challenges that we've all been through, I think this could potentially be a real constraint. So we are, as a business, starting to look at the at-work charging facilities, and using their utility expertise, we're starting to work and offer services to business to try and help them and walk them through that process and make sure they don't spend any more than they need to, or whether they need to spend anything at all, to facilitate their premises ready for electric vehicle rollout. The other thing that's happening, and it's a bit of a perfect storm, I'm afraid, this table, sorry for presenting lots and lots of data, but this table shows you that some of the models on the road these days and their battery size. What's happening, there's a thing that's prohibiting customers from buying electric vehicles, and they call it range anxiety. Can you get there and back in one charge, and that sort of thing? And that's forcing manufacturers to put ever larger batteries into their cars. The trouble with an ever larger battery is you need an ever larger supply to actually boost it. So if you have a look on that table, if you had an Audi and you plugged it in at home into what used to be called a standard trickle charger, or something that works off a 13-amp socket, it would take you 31 hours to charge it, to give it a full charge. Now, accepted, not everyone turns up home every day with a fully flat or an empty fuel tank, but that's probably beyond the realms of acceptability. So what we're also seeing is, as vehicle batteries are getting larger, there is a need for larger and larger charge points. And the two columns that are highlighted in red are the restrictions on home charging at the moment, as big as you can go, really, without having some major electrical upgrades to your property. Businesses can facilitate the larger charges in the other three columns, but they generally mean you're going to have to pay for a bigger electricity supply into the property itself. So this is a fairly significant issue, and something that businesses are struggling to get their head around about. How can they facilitate this rollout of transport, given the constraints around cost and availability of supply? And then you add another element, and I'd like to thank Rachel. We hadn't rehearsed, but she spoke about this a little bit earlier, and I'm just going to pick up on something she said around heat and the electrification of heat. Now, I said a moment ago that transport accounts for about 27% of all emissions in the UK, and the provision of heat, so that's heating homes and businesses, accounts for about 25%, so not far behind. We do a lot of work with developers and new build, and that's one of our core activities. And around about 78% of all new homes today are either heated by gas or oil. But from 2025, with a thing called the new home standard, the future home standard, they are going to be banned. And what we're seeing is what Rachel alluded to, which is the move towards a heat pump as a heat source. Now, just to give you a perspective, heat pumps are very efficient ways of transferring heat for either air or ground source from water. If you put in 2 or 3 kilowatts of electrical energy, because you have to have something to drive the pumps around, you get about 9 or 10 or 12, depending on the type, kilowatts of heat outwards. So they're quite efficient. They transfer electrical energy into heat energy quite efficiently. However, that electrical energy that's going in has got to come from your existing supplies. And there's just a couple of statistics there that we've found from our experience of working with developers. When you start looking at a home that's got to be heated by a heat pump heat source, then the demand that home is going to take off the grid, off of the network, increases by about 40%. If you then add on top that the home's probably, because of planning conditions these days, probably going to need an electric vehicle charging point, that's adding a further 27% to the demand for that new home. Now, that's quite a significant increase in capacity that has to come from the network, and that's one of the biggest constraints and challenges that network operators are finding, is how they gear up to facilitate this move to low carbon by having bigger networks, more capacity on the network, etc., etc. So it's a real perfect storm at the moment, and is exercising a lot of people in their minds around how we deal with this challenge. I just wanted to share with you something that's happening more strategically across the country around generation. You may be aware that there's been a move certainly to sort of low carbon fuels over the recent years, and there's a lot of data on this slide, I do appreciate, but overall electricity generating electricity has reduced its carbon emissions by 65% since 1990. That's quite significant. And if you just look at the top line of that table, coal is also non-existent as a fuel source, these days, or when this data was last taken. And again, Rachel alluded to this. A lot of companies are looking at solar generation as an option. That also can have network impacts. The electrical network was designed many years ago to take electricity from power stations to your home, and these days it's suddenly finding that there are other generation sources in your homes or in your businesses, and it has to flow the other way, and that actually provides technical challenges to the owners and operators of those systems. I just thought it might be interesting if I'm just going to step out and show you something slightly different. Has my screen changed, Anna?
No, it hasn't. I think you have to come out. We're unshare, come out completely to stop sharing, and then you have to go back in again.
Okie dokie, I will do that. Or I won't do that, as some of the screen's frozen. I was going to show you some live data from the grid as of now as to what the because there's some dash parts that you can look up to show you what the actual generating mix is at the moment. So
you can stop. You can stop sharing your screen altogether. So we come back to the main screen, and then you do it again and choose a different screen option.
Yeah, I can't find the unshare button.
So it will be at the top of your screen where it says stop sharing. If not, I can stop it. Let me see if I can stop here. There you go.
There you go. Okay.
So try that again now. Yeah.
Can you see?
Yes.
Can you see? Okay, so this is almost live data. In fact, I think it's timed at 10 o'clock this morning, just to give you a sort of bit of insight. So look at the little dash parts across the top for those of you that can see. On the left-hand side, it's saying that at the moment, the UK is using just over 32 gigawatts of electricity. And of that, just over 30%, 31% of the second dash part is coming from carbon neutral fuel sources. And then the other dash parts are making up the difference. If there's anyone that's a bit of a technophobe and likes tracking this sort of thing, this is freely available on a site called gridwatch.co.uk, and it's something I have a little dip in and out of every now and then to see what's happening. So the point being there that there's lots of low carbon now on the network, and lots of new technologies are starting to provide electricity provision away from coal and gas, which are the traditions. I believe it's pretty windy down in the West Country today, and about 15% of our generation at the moment is coming from wind sources. Obviously, it is a beautiful, we're in the middle of July, or at the end of July, aren't we? It should be warm and sunny and still, but it's not. So you'd expect in that instance lots more solar and very little wind. But as the weather's all gone to cock these days, then it's the other way around, isn't it? So, Anna, would you mind unsharing me just so I can go back to the other one? Because thank you. Okay, so the other area I was going to talk about this morning, just before I close, is about what I'd sometimes describe as an unintended consequence of the pandemic. And I'm sure, like many businesses, you face the same challenges that we did in March last year. How do you keep your business afloat with staff limited to home working? And this became a little bit of a learning point and a key lesson for everyone about the need for high-speed connectivity into both homes and businesses. We had to transition from an office-based organisation where we did have some home working facility for the more senior staff because they were out and about a lot, to a fully home working organisation in something like a 24-hour period. And it really did highlight the need for good quality, high-speed internet connectivity. What you'll see now in the market, there's lots of changes and lots of new players starting to enter, and there's new terminologies like ultra-fast broadband and hyper-fast broadband, and speeds that are unheard of a year or two ago. Some companies are offering up to 1 gigabyte of speed on some of their new links. Now, interestingly enough, they tend to be smaller, localized companies. And I've just put a few logos on the bottom of that slide there of companies that I know are currently actively rolling out fibre services in Sussex. So I know City Fibre, I live in Eastbourne, and I know they're working actively around me in the town. There's also another local company serving Hastings and Eastbourne called Lightning Fibre, and there's also a company called Swish Fibre that are looking at mid Sussex and a little further north into Surrey. So if you're thinking that this is a challenge, then sometimes you need to look further than the traditional main operators and look at some of the more localized businesses to get high-speed services that will support your needs going forward. And that's a bit of a change where we've been used to traditional national sort of providers, and none of them tend to be offering the sort of speeds that some of these small companies are coming into the market at. So significant number of new entrants offering your internet connectivity services, which will be key to the success of business as we move forward. Now, all of these factors, so this drive towards electrification of transport, electrification of heat, faster connectivity is creating all sorts of challenges for the utility operating companies, the network companies. There's less acceptance of supplies being interrupted. I know, and I'm sure I'm no different, but I've got younger family members who think if they haven't got internet access, it's like taking the air out of the bedroom. So security of supplies is a major issue. The networks are much more complex. I said earlier, we do utility searches. If you look at what's in the ground these days compared to 5 or 10 years ago, there's so many more operators installing stuff, and that makes challenges of doing work and undertaking work much more of a challenge. The electricity network is under severe strain. We work with a lot of new build, and trying to get the capacity to serve a 1,000 home development is a real challenge and an extremely costly challenge these days. There's some significant cost increases in some areas, particularly getting capacity available, and for businesses that are trying to just get simple things like electric charging installed in their premises, it can be quite prohibitive. And there's also a lot of regulation driving us towards low carbon, but having consequences in things like the planning regulations around having to provide a charge point in all new homes. Adds to the complexity and the cost of the build. And overall, for utility companies, meeting the needs and expectations of us as a society will be a challenge, and one that they're pouring a lot of time and effort into. What I would say is, my contact details will come up in a second, but if you need any help or you want to talk about anything that around infrastructure that's as a consequence of your move towards zero carbon, we're happy to talk. We have had a Sussex Chamber member offer in play for some time where we're offering advice at no cost initially. So, if you want a conversation around what's happening and how we might be able to help, then please do get in touch. And my contact details have come up there on the slide. So at this moment, that concludes my little presentation, Anna.
Thank you so much, Nigel. It's really fascinating, because a lot of people don't stop to I suppose, really consider how things such as the internet, that high-speed connectivity that we all want and we've all been grappling with for the last 18 months, and there's been a greater need and a greater use, and how that all feeds into the electricity and all our usage, and be interesting to see how we can reduce that, and whether there will be ways of reducing that, because like you mentioned, we all want batteries to charge up a lot quicker, but that means battery sizes are having to increase, and then it's putting more pressure on the electricity grid as well. And that will be not just for businesses that are looking at installing electric vehicle charging, but also homeowners, because I know that will add to their costs as well, in terms of depending on the size of that vehicle and how much electricity it uses. We at the British Chambers, we are lobbying government in terms of the support and the funding. I know you mentioned about access to funding, and this is crucial, especially now when businesses have had to grapple with, the pandemic, also the EU transition, the now having to really rebuild the business and find that funding. there needs to be funding and support to assist businesses to adapt to this change to meet that net zero agenda. So we are lobbying government really strongly on that. But just to go back to the point you mentioned about electric vehicle charging and how businesses can install charging points. There's, of course, many businesses, a lot of the SMEs, may be in property that is owned by the landlord. So how do we ask the landlord to install this? Because it will be at a cost to them. Because it would be fantastic if I could turn around to the landlord where we're based in our offices to say, please, can you install a few electric vehicle charging points?
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. And in fact, that was the overriding feedback we got from interaction with some businesses when we started on this journey as well. We're not the owners and we'd like the landlords. We've spoken to a number of landlords. And in fact, we are actively working with a few of the forward-thinking ones. But it's just a challenge. It's just a case, I think, Anna, of lobbying and making your perceptions and your needs very clear to your landlord. Yes, it probably ends up in some sort of commercial conversation about the rental and the lease and everything. But I talked about our business. We're in a property that's landlord owned and absolutely no problem. I agree, it's the way forward. So I think there will be some early adopters where the conversation will be easier. But I think in some cases, it's a case of sitting down and talk, well, how do you expect us to play our part in meeting the zero carbon challenge if you won't facilitate in an area that is one of the biggest contributors, transport, to the overall issue that we're all facing. So I think it's just a case of trying to educate them as much as anything, and we're happy to play our part in that if we can help people with that conversation, and all well and good.
Thank you. No, I think that's really good to know that you can help with those conversations, because I think this is a challenge many businesses will face. You also mentioned the climate change, and we are seeing, extreme weather, whether it's wind, rain, or heat, periods of excessive heat and everything. And we're seeing this around the world. We've got the offshore wind farm, the Rampion offshore wind farm, and I know that there's another consultation out in terms of expanding the wind farm. There's also plans to develop a hydrogen hub, shore and port. They're looking at hydrogen. And we've also got, which is not related to electricity, but it helps reduce carbon. It's the kelp forest, which has recently been protected by DEFRA, which is off the coast from Worthing along the coast towards Chichester and Hampshire. And that kelp forest is a unique biodiverse area, and it really does help reduce carbon footprint a lot more, I believe, than the forests. So that is really fantastic to have this in Sussex as well, and that's really contributing to reducing the carbon emissions and everything. But in terms of the climate change, the solar and the offshore and the hydrogen, this raises questions in terms of the skills challenges and the skills needs for the future, doesn't it?
It does indeed, yeah. It's interesting because we're currently actively looking to recruit someone with the sustainability background, and we'd never thought about that before. And that's a whole new area for us in terms of, we've got, I'm an electrical engineer by background, and we've got gas engineers and we've got other sort of mechanical engineers. But it is causing businesses to widen their skill base, and that's a really interesting dynamic and a really interesting development for us. And I'm sure a lot of SMEs are the same. And also the access to the experience and the expertise that you need to advise you. It might not be on a permanent basis, but just getting access to people that you trust and whose judgment you trust and who know and understand what they're telling you. Because there's a lot of companies out there selling products, and they're only interested in selling products. They're not interested in solving the issue. It's just about, if I can sell you another widget that happens to support zero carbon, all well and good, but without thinking about the longer term end game. And we've come across quite a bit of that, where people have been missold or oversold something that they don't need to have because people haven't thought of things more broadly. So it's the whole skill things is an interesting dynamic, Anna.
I'll pick up on the skills part again in a short while, because I have some interesting updates for everybody in a short while. But I can see Neil, he's got his hand up. So if you'd like to ask your question, Neil.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh,
Oops.
you're upside down.
God knows
You in
why.
Australia, Neil?
That's an interesting one. If you can bear with me on being upside down, in terms of the road to net zero, how are people counting their carbon emissions currently? And as a follow-on from, because we've started that journey, because we're a carbon balanced business, so we're doing carbon balancing through offset. But and as a follow-on from that, is anybody aware of any government contributory support towards? There's an awful lot of consultants who will help you to count your carbon emissions, but is there any support towards benchmarking where you are with your carbon emissions so that you can get on the road properly?
So I know that we are working, the British Chambers are working with local MP Andrew Griffith, and we're also working with the other leading business organisations such as the CBI, IOD, FSB, and the Global Chambers. And we're developing a website. It is live at the moment, and I'm happy to share these links afterwards as well. And that will also be looking at having a carbon calculator so that businesses can then look at what carbon they're currently using and then look at reducing it. And the whole aim of this website is to give insights, information to business, but it will also help towards the COP26 conference in Glasgow in November, understanding where we're at now and how businesses are trying to reduce their carbon footprint. So I'm happy to share all of those links afterwards. I didn't know if you had anything else as well, Nigel.
I think you're spot on, Anna. I think it's those sort of mechanisms that are sorely needed, that people can go online and assess their current position and map it out. So I think that's a good answer.
Brilliant. Any other questions?
Thanks
from
very much.
Oh, you're welcome, Neil. You're the right way up now. Any other questions from anyone? One thing I mentioned, we were talking about skills. So recently the government had a skills for jobs white paper, and the part of that document, there were two parts of the skills bid. There was a local skills improvement plan, which had to be a bid submitted by a business representative organisation, not local authorities or not LEPs. So we put in a bid. There was also another part of the fund, which was a strategic development fund, and that had to be put in by the colleges. So we worked together to develop these two bids, and the college group, it was led by Chichester College Group, but it was for all of the colleges in Sussex. They put in their strategic development fund and we put in our bid, and we were successful. So we're one of 8 trailblazers and pilot areas in the UK. What this means is the strategic development fund for the Chichester College Group, and along with all of the colleges, will focus predominantly on the green tech skills of the future. So this will look at establishing carbon literacy and sustainability awareness by creating centres of excellence. It will also establish 4 hybrid electric vehicle technology training centres in Sussex. Also establish a centre of excellence for land-based industries for electric powered vehicle and plant and machinery, alternative energies and the hydrogen technologies, and establishing what those skills look like. And then also transitioning land management towards the zero carbon agenda. Also looking at decarbonisation academies and retrofitting and green energy installation for homes. So that was part of the colleges group, and the idea is to develop courses, training, so that young people can then develop in these new green technologies that we need for the future. Our part of the skills bid will now start to look at in-depth analysis and research in terms of what the current skills gaps and challenges are and what the future needs are, but really going out to businesses and really understanding all of your concerns, what those gaps are, the challenges, whether it's upskilling, whether there's specific skills that we're not even addressing through the colleges or through training providers. So there will be a lot more coming out. We've literally only just won the bid, literally a week ago. And so we're both just gathering more information, and there'll be plans and everything and more research analysis rolled out over the next few months. So I think that's really exciting news. It will help to start to look at these future skills needs, because if we don't start to look at that now, we're going to have huge gaps in the future. So I thought I'd just add that to the conversation and see if anybody had any final questions for any of our speakers. Any hands up? No. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank all of our speakers today. Absolutely fantastic and amazing. So I'd like to thank Rachel, Yasmin and Nigel for all of their inputs and their insights. And there's lots of things that businesses can do, even if it's just taking small steps to start becoming more sustainable, to reducing your carbon footprint and meeting the net zero agenda. As I said, we will be holding a conference in November on this specific topic, and there'll be more information that we will be sharing through the Global Chamber Network in August. Details of our conference will come out. We will be, if you wish to sponsor the event, fantastic. There will be circulating information about sponsorship, and so that you can appear in all of our marketing and our literature. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. We will circulate the slides and the presentations, and a huge thank you to all of our speakers. It's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you.